How's it? Today is Monday, February 5th. It is another Snatch day. We are starting to build from last week's, first week of the block. Last week I did three triples for Snatch at 70, and because they were super easy, super light, Steve is my coach, by the way. Steve was saying, try to feel good and then push up. So, because last week was good and today I felt pretty good before I started warming up, it was an opportunity to push up about 5 kilos. So, same thing for my warm up today that I did last week. I think is very helpful. That upper back with the peanut, rolling over in the peanut, and then doing some prayer stretches. I think that is helping me a tremendous amount. And then I think also doing that dumbbell static hold, like overhead hold, I think that helps out a lot as well. Today, my goal was to look a little bit different than what I did on Friday. Friday's lifts were pretty easy, 75 and 80 for a few singles each, but I felt really slow from extension to like point over my head. And so today I try my best to be quick, whatever that meant. So that might look like it's a little bit laggy in some spots and quicker in some areas. But for me, what I was thinking about was being very stable and steady from the ground. And then once it reaches right above my knee, sort of where the start of the shorts begin, I start to speed up. And I think it helped out a lot, like speed wise. Like if you're just looking at the way that these lifts look versus how they were looking last week, Friday specifically, I feel like I'm very, very, very quick from point of extension to point of fixation. And for me, that's not something I've ever been really good at. So maybe this is an opportunity for me to improve and work on some things that I'm weak at. So that's really what I'm looking at here. This is 70. This is my last set before I warm up. This is my last warm up set before my top set. And yeah, I do think that as I am starting, that slower tempo is allowing me to be a little bit more intentional where my body positioning is. And yeah, we'll watch these together. First set here. Very, very, very quick from the part where I stand tall and then the bar is turning over pretty quickly. Like it feels like I'm throwing it over my head. Whereas in the past, it felt like I was just kind of lifting with my legs. And I mean, to an extent, both of those are true, like relatively all the time. But today it was just more emphasis on throwing with my arms. That's not a good way of explaining it. That's actually a very bad way of explaining it. But so this set here, the second rep, I wouldn't call this a make necessarily, but I didn't act like I missed it. You see that jump back? So that's the one big thing that I am weary of. Is that the word? That I'm worried about when I try to extend quickly and get under the bar quickly. I tend to jump back. And if I jump back while the bar stays in the same spot, I'm not going to make the lift because the bar is going to be too out front. I reattempted that single there just to make sure that I could still lift it, Here's my last set, my last true set. True last set. Whatever. Seems a little bit longer on extension than the others. And, that's okay, At the end of the day, these are me trying to figure out something that I'm not really good at, that I don't think is like necessarily the best way to lift, but it's if I can practice it and figure out like a fine tuning of if I could be a little bit more delayed on my extension but still be quick under the bar. If those two things can happen together, then that's where I want to be. But those are all my lifts there. So 9 for 9.5, 9 for 10, something like that. 9.5 for 10. um, yeah. So after the snatches, moved into some snatch pulls at 85, just 5 5s at 85. Last week I did 80, so very similar to the increase on my snatches from earlier, right? Um, the reason why the snatch pulls look the way that they do, where I don't really get on my toes, is I think it's a important thing to note. I've talked about it before, but it's really me trying to force knee extension and hip extension before getting to ankle plantar flexion, which I guess is ankle extension. Um, because at the end of the day, I'm probably not going to be limited by strength in my calf raise. In a vacuum, I I could probably calf raise 500 pounds like on my back if I could stand it up out of the rack safely and just get on my toes. I'm fairly sure I can do that. There's no way in hell I could even back squat 400 right now. So that is saying a lot. If I'm not going to be limited by my calf strength, my gastroc strength to get on my toes in any snatch or any clean and jerk. But if my timing or my positioning is wrong for my knees or for my hips, then there's a good chance I could miss the lift based on those two things alone, right? And like if I can get my knees and hips perfect, then just adding in the toes, the ankles, the gastroc, is going to just add a little cherry on the top. And that's the reason why they look a little strange, but I think that they help me a lot with positioning and timing. After that, moved into my pull-ups here, which is very similar to what I did. It's exactly what I did last week, actually. So 8 sets of 5, with like a kind of slow ascent and very, very, very slow descent. These are really good. I feel like they've helped me feel my lats, in the days after last week Monday. So hopefully the same thing is true this week. Finished off with my powerlift press today, which was different from last week because last week I did some GHD sit-ups instead, mainly because I went to Topgolf last week Sunday. So that was a little too much twisting on one side, so it was very offset for those abs. But yeah, that's it for today. I'm very happy with how it went. I think today was very productive. So thank you for watching. Shoots.